All right, so we're diving into the power of positive thinking today. And
Yeah,
it looks like you're really interested in this whole idea of overcoming challenges and personal growth and finding happiness.
definitely. And you know what's really interesting is how this book frames Christianity as like a science almost.
Oh, wow.
It's not just about faith. It's like it lays out these techniques and formulas for achieving positive outcomes.
Like a self-help book almost.
Yeah, exactly. Like you'd find in a self-help book.
And there are so many amazing stories in here, like that one about the guy
Right.
who imagined emptying all his worries into the ocean every night.
Oh, yeah. That's a great one.
What do you think the takeaway is there?
I think it's about visualization, you know?
Yeah?
Like
Yeah.
you can actually create a ritual to release your anxieties.
Oh, okay.
Almost like you're physically letting go of them,
Interesting.
making space for more positive thoughts.
That's a good idea. I'm always trying to find ways to quiet my mind.
Yeah.
The book also talks about filling your mind with faith-based affirmations. Right, like those found in Romans 8.31 and Philippians 4.13. Do you think that's really effective?
Well, the book argues it's a two-step process.
Okay.
First, you have to recognize your own inherent worth and value.
Uh-huh.
Then you can utilize the power of faith to overcome self-doubt and start building confidence.
So it's not just about repeating the words.
Right.
It's about connecting them to a deeper sense of self-worth.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and there's also that story about the man who was trying to develop his faith at age 40.
Oh, yeah. He felt like he was starting late.
Yeah, and the book suggests finding a spiritual advisor
Okay.
to help him learn the skills of faith.
Like any other skill.
Yeah, like any other skill you can practice and develop.
That ties in with the concept of cultivating a peaceful mind,
Yeah,
which the book emphasizes as a source of power.
it is a powerful source.
Remember that story about the businessman who found peace by reading Psalm 23.2?
Oh yeah, during stressful time.
He was struggling with anxiety, but the book seems to suggest that constantly hearing about problems and negativity can really drain you.
It can.
And instead, we should be seeking out those moments of quiet and practicing what it calls suggestive articulation. I have to admit, that phrase kind of threw me off.
It's a mouthful.
What does that even mean?
It might sound a little complicated,
Yeah.
but it's really just about using positive self-talk to shift your mood.
Okay.
It's like consciously choosing to focus on peaceful words and ideas.
So instead of letting your mind spiral with all the what ifs and worries,
Exactly.
you're intentionally replacing those thoughts with something more positive and calming.
Right.
I can see how that could be helpful, especially for someone who tends to overthink things.
It can be really helpful.
The book also emphasizes the importance of limiting negative conversations
Yes.
and finding those pockets of silence throughout your day.
It's like creating a mental sanctuary.
Okay, so we've talked about confronting those feelings of inferiority and finding inner peace. But the book also dives into this idea of having constant energy.
Oh, it does.
It describes God as the source of all energy,
Okay.
like a power station where we can recharge our batteries.
That's a good analogy.
And it references Isaiah 40.29 and Acts 17.28, which speak to God's power to strengthen and energize us.
Yeah, those are powerful verses.
Have you ever considered that connection between spirituality and energy?
Definitely. It's a fascinating concept.
There's a story about a doctor who attributed his boundless energy to his faith and emotional well-being.
Oh, wow.
He was incredibly active, but never seemed to get tired.
That's amazing.
He said he made a conscious effort to avoid letting resentment drain his energy.
Interesting.
Do you think that's a realistic approach?
I think what's interesting is the idea that our emotions can actually impact our energy levels.
Really?
If we're constantly dwelling on negativity or holding on to resentment, it's going to take a toll on us. But if we can cultivate a more positive outlook and let go of those draining emotions, we might find that we have more energy for the things that truly matter.
So our mental and emotional state can influence our physical energy.
It can.
That's a powerful concept.
It is.
The book also mentions the idea of syncing with God's rhythm to access this wellspring of energy.
Okay.
What do you think that looks like in practice?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think it's about aligning your actions with a sense of divine purpose,
Okay.
finding that flow state where your efforts feel effortless.
Interesting.
It's about surrendering to a higher power and trusting that you're being guided towards your highest good.
So it's not just about working harder, it's about working smarter
Exactly.
in a way that's aligned with a greater force. That makes a lot of sense. And,
Yeah.
Speaking of working smarter, the book also emphasizes the importance of positive thinking and expecting the best.
Right.
It seems to suggest that our expectations can actually influence our outcomes.
Absolutely. The book argues that if we constantly expect the worst, we're more likely to experience negative outcomes.
Okay.
But if we shift our mindset and start expecting the best,
Yeah.
we open ourselves up to new possibilities.
It's like we're setting ourselves up for success or failure based on our beliefs.
It can feel that way sometimes.
There's that great story about the businessman who transformed his life by adopting a more positive mindset.
Oh, yeah.
He went from feeling defeated to achieving incredible success.
He did.
Do you think that was purely the result of his change in attitude?
It's hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but I think it highlights the power of belief.
Okay.
When we believe in ourselves and our ability to succeed, we're more likely to take risks, persevere through challenges, and ultimately achieve our goals.
So our thoughts really do have power.
They do.
That's a little scary, but also incredibly exciting.
It is both.
And then there's that baseball anecdote about the Schlatter bat.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't even clear if the bat actually had any special powers.
Right.
But the players' belief in it seemed to boost their performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even though there was debate about whether the bat's power was real or perceived, the players' shift in mindset, their expectation of hitting more home runs, demonstrably changed their game.
It's like they unlocked a new level of confidence just by believing in the bat.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's pretty amazing. But what about when those negative thoughts creep in?
Yeah.
Those worries that can really take hold and spiral out of control.
Worry can be a real problem.
The book calls worry a subtle and destructive disease,
It can be?
comparing it to a mental chokehold that can actually manifest as physical illness.
It's a powerful image.
And the book provides a 3-step process for breaking free from that worry habit.
It does.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are the steps?
First, you have to believe that it's actually possible to break the worry habit.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a sense of hope and empowerment. Then you need to find a way to empty your mind of anxieties.
Right.
The book suggests techniques like visualization or meditation
Okay.
to help you release those worrisome thoughts.
So it's not about ignoring or suppressing your worries.
Right.
It's about actively replacing them with something more positive and empowering.
Exactly.
That makes sense. And I love that the book acknowledges that overcoming challenges requires more than just positive thinking.
It does.
It also talks about the importance of taking practical action and seeking solutions.
Absolutely. It's not about passively hoping for the best. It's about actively engaging with the challenges we face.
Right.
And seeking guidance and support when we need it.
And it emphasizes that the power to solve problems often lies within us.
It does.
It's about tapping into our own inner resources and recognizing that we have the strength and resilience to overcome obstacles. I'm thinking about the story of the businessman who was really struggling.
Yeah.
But he decided to form a partnership with God, surrendering his anxieties and seeking guidance.
Okay.
He started to have these intuitive breakthroughs, almost like he was tapping into a higher wisdom.
Interesting.
Do you think that's possible?
I think it highlights the power of faith and surrender.
Okay.
When we let go of our need to control everything and trust that a higher power is working in our lives,
Yeah.
we open ourselves up to new possibilities and solutions that we might not have seen before.
The book even uses that mustard seed analogy from Matthew 17:20
Oh, yeah.
to illustrate how even a small amount of faith can move mountains.
It's a powerful image.
So it's not about having all the answers, it's about having faith that the answers will come.
Exactly. It's about trusting in a power that's greater than ourselves and believing that we're being guided and supported even when we can't see the way forward.
Okay, so we've talked about confronting our fears, finding inner peace, tapping into our energy reserves, and even solving problems.
Right.
But what about those times when we feel stuck, like we're trapped in a rut and need a fresh perspective?
Okay.
The book dives into this concept of how an inflow of new thoughts can completely change us no matter what we're going through.
It's like a mental and spiritual makeover.
I like that. So how do we get this inflow of new thoughts?
The key, according to the book, is to let go of those old negative thought patterns and make space for fresh, creative ideas inspired by faith.
Oh,
It's about opening our minds to new possibilities and trusting that we can be transformed from the inside out.
there's that story about the business executive who replaced his negative thoughts with affirmations from Psalm 27.1 and 3.
Right.
He went from feeling completely defeated to achieving incredible success.
He did.
It's amazing how a simple shift in thinking can create such a dramatic change in outcomes.
It is amazing.
And remember the story of Guideposts magazine?
Oh, yeah?
They were on the verge of financial ruin, but they were saved by a sudden creative idea.
They were.
It's like those new thoughts opened up a whole new path for them, leading them to a solution they hadn't even considered before.
It's like a lifeline.
So it's not just about positive thinking.
Right.
It's about opening ourselves up to inspiration and allowing those new creative ideas to flow in. But how do we do that? How do we create the space for those new thoughts to emerge?
Huh?
The book seems to suggest that relaxation plays a key role.
Right.
It even goes so far as to say that relaxation is one of Christianity's scientific techniques for treating human nature.
Interesting.
So it's not just about chilling out and watching Netflix.
Right.
It's about creating the mental and emotional space for new ideas to emerge.
Yeah.
It's like our minds need space to breathe in order for those creative sparks to fly.
That's a good way to put it.
The book talks about adopting an easy does-it attitude.
Okay.
Slowing down our pace and finding moments of quiet throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's realistic in our fast-paced, always-on culture?
It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
But I think it's more important now than ever.
Okay.
We're constantly bombarded with information and stimulation, and it's easy to get swept away in the current.
Right.
But if we could make a conscious effort to create those pockets of stillness in our lives,
Yeah.
even if it's just for a few minutes each day, it can make a huge difference.
It's like hitting the pause button on the chaos
Exactly.
and giving ourselves permission to simply be.
It is.
And, it makes me think about Branch Rickey,
yeah.
the baseball executive who was known for his calm and collected demeanor. Even in the most high-pressure situations,
Right.
he achieved incredible success without succumbing to that frantic energy that so many of us feel pressured to maintain.
We did.
It's like he had this inner peace that allowed him to stay grounded and focused,
That's a good observation.
even when everything around him was swirling with chaos.
Yeah. And the book seems to suggest that this ability to work relaxed comes from tapping into a source of power beyond ourselves.
So it's not about striving harder, it's about aligning ourselves with a greater force and allowing it to work through us.
Exactly.
And that brings us to another really fascinating aspect of the book.
Okay.
The art of likability.
Interesting.
Something we all think about consciously or unconsciously. We all want to be liked and accepted to feel like we belong.
Right.
But the book acknowledges that it's impossible to please everyone.
It is.
So what's the key to building those strong personal connections?
It starts with recognizing that universal human need to feel valued and appreciated.
Okay.
Remember those contrasting stories about the older doctor who longed for human connection
Oh, yeah.
and the middle-aged woman who felt unwanted and unwell?
Yeah, those stories really highlight how essential it is to feel seen and heard to know that we matter.
They do.
And then there's that heartwarming anecdote about James Farley, who had this remarkable ability to make people feel special
He did.
through those simple acts of kindness and genuine interest.
Right, like his interactions with the woman in the grocery store.
Exactly.
It's not about grand gestures or trying to impress people. It's about those small, everyday acts of kindness that make a real difference.
So how do we become more like James Farley? Is there a secret formula for likability?
Well, the book delves into the idea that our own self-perceptions can actually affect how others perceive us.
Okay.
It's not just about our actions, it's also about our internal dialogue.
You mean like how we talk to ourselves and the beliefs we hold about ourselves?
Exactly. The book highlights how certain personality traits, even those we might be unaware of, can create a kind of scratchy element that makes us less appealing to others.
Interesting.
Like the man who went to the clinic for help with his personal relationships.
Oh, yeah.
He was critical, rigid, and had an air of superiority that made people uncomfortable.
It sounds like he was projecting his own insecurities onto others.
It's possible.
Yeah.
The book suggests that these negative traits are often rooted in deeper fears or insecurities.
Okay.
It's not about blaming ourselves. It's about recognizing those patterns and doing the inner work to heal and grow.
So it's like we have to do some personal development before we can truly connect with others in a healthy way.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
And the book provides some practical techniques for doing that.
It does.
It encourages us to identify and address those negative thought patterns or behaviors that are hindering our ability to build strong relationships. It's like a mental and emotional makeover for our relationships.
It is.
And ultimately, it all boils down to cultivating a genuine love for others.
It does.
The book suggests that when we focus on the positive qualities in people, we become more likable ourselves.
That's a good point.
It's like our own inner light shines brighter when we choose to see the light in others.
I like that.
And the book offers some specific techniques for practicing this,
Yeah.
like making an effort to learn people's names, expressing sincere appreciation,
Right.
and looking for opportunities to make others feel valued.
It's about shifting our focus from ourselves to others, making that conscious effort to connect on a deeper level.
But what about when those connections are broken, when we experience loss and heartache?
Yeah.
It's a universal human experience, but it can feel so isolating and overwhelming.
It can be incredibly difficult.
It's definitely one of the most challenging aspects of life.
It is.
And the book acknowledges that heartache is an inevitable part of the human experience, but it also offers some really valuable insights into coping with grief and finding healing.
It does.
What kind of insights? I think a lot of people struggle with how to process those difficult emotions in a healthy way.
Well, the book emphasizes the importance of expressing our grief authentically, rather than bottling it up or trying to pretend we're not hurting. It also points to the power of faith in helping us to heal and find solace in the midst of pain.
That reminds me of that beautiful quote from Brother Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
If in this life we would know the serene peace of paradise, we must school ourselves in familiar, humble, and loving converse with God.
Beautiful.
It suggests that even in our darkest moments, we can find comfort and peace in our connection with a higher power.
And the book also talks about developing a sound and satisfying philosophy of life and death. It argues that understanding the continuity of life after death can bring immense comfort in times of loss.
I remember the passages about the dying man who saw his deceased relatives and Mrs. Edison's account of her husband's peaceful passing.
Right.
They offer a glimpse of hope beyond the veil of death, a sense that death is not the end,
Yeah.
but a transition to something greater.
The book reinforces that message of hope by pointing to the numerous accounts of people who have felt the presence of loved ones who have passed on.
Okay.
It suggests that the connection between souls transcends the physical realm.
That's a really comforting thought. It's like those we've lost are still with us in spirit, even if we can't see them.
It is a comforting thought.
And it all circles back to that overarching theme of drawing upon a higher power. It's the thread that weaves through all of these principles and anecdotes.
Right.
This idea that we're not alone in our struggles, that there's a source of strength and guidance that's always available to us if we choose to tap into it.
It is available to us.
We've seen it time and time again in the stories we've discussed. From the man who found sobriety through Alcoholics Anonymous to Charles the alcoholic who experienced a miraculous healing.
Yeah.
It seems like there's this recurring theme of surrender and transformation.
There is.
It's about letting go of our ego's need to control everything.
Right.
And trusting that a higher power is working in our lives, even when we can't see the path ahead.
Exactly.
It's about having faith that we're being guided and supported even in the midst of our darkest moments.
It is.
And it's not just about overcoming challenges or achieving success. It's about finding a deeper sense of peace and purpose in our lives, a connection to something greater than ourselves.
That's what it's all about.
It's about recognizing that we're not alone in this journey, that we're all part of something much bigger than we can even imagine.
Exactly.
This has been such a rich and insightful exploration so far.
It has.
I'm already starting to see how these principles could apply to my own life.
That's great to hear.
It's amazing how even a small shift in perspective can open up a whole new world of possibilities.
It really is. And, it's not just about overcoming obstacles or, like finding that deeper purpose.
Right.
The book also talks about this idea of actively creating your own happiness.
Yeah, it's like it flips the script on happiness just happening to you.
Yeah.
It's a skill you can develop.
It is. It's like a skill.
Right.
The book argues that a lot of our unhappiness comes from our own thought patterns. If we're always dwelling on negative thoughts,
Yeah.
it's like we're creating our own misery.
So it's about making that conscious choice
Yeah.
to focus on the positive.
To focus on the positive.
But how do we actually do that, especially when life throws those curveballs and it feels like everything is going wrong?
Well, the book talks about developing this, what it calls the happiness habit.
Okay.
One technique it suggests is to, make a mental list of happy thoughts.
Okay.
Things that bring you joy, memories that make you smile. And then you intentionally revisit those thoughts throughout the day.
So it's like creating your own mental highlight reel.
Exactly. It's like mental decluttering, making space for more joy.
I like that. It's like we have the power to curate our own mental landscape.
We do.
The book even recommends starting each day by visualizing those positive experiences you anticipate having.
Right.
Almost like setting an intention for the day to be filled with, joy and happiness.
Yeah, and it's not just about mental exercise.
Right.
The book also talks about living by principles that promote happiness,
Okay.
like expressing love and goodwill towards others.
Yeah, there's that wonderful story about Ralston Young,
Oh, yeah.
the red cap who brightened the day of that woman in a wheelchair just by complimenting her hat and dress.
It's just a simple gesture.
But it made a huge difference.
It did.
And the book makes the point that expressing love and kindness isn't just about making others happy.
Right.
It's about cultivating happiness within ourselves.
It is.
Makes me think about H.C. Mattern, the man who carried a business card outlining his personal philosophy for happiness.
I remember that.
Basically, it boiled down to living a life of faith and love.
Right.
Do you think that's oversimplifying things?
I think it speaks to the power of finding meaning and purpose in something larger than ourselves.
Okay.
When we connect with our faith, with a sense of love and compassion for others, it brings a deeper sense of joy and fulfillment.
So it's like we're tapping into a source of happiness that's not dependent on external circumstances.
Exactly.
That's powerful. And, speaking of tapping into something greater than ourselves, the book keeps coming back to this idea of the power of new thoughts.
It does. It's a recurring theme.
It's almost like those new thoughts act as a catalyst for change, helping us break free from old patterns and create a new reality.
The book gives some pretty compelling examples.
Yeah, like the business executive who went from feeling defeated to experiencing incredible success just by replacing his negative thoughts with affirmations from Psalm 27.1 and 3.
And then there's Guidepost magazine on the brink of financial collapse.
Yeah, they were saved by the sudden creative inspiration.
Like a burst of creative energy.
It's a powerful illustration of how a single thought can change our trajectory.
A single new thought.
Yeah, those new thoughts act as a lifeline.
Yeah.
Pulling us out of negativity and despair.
And the book makes this interesting connection between our ability to receive these new thoughts and the practice of relaxation.
Okay. How are those two things connected?
Well, the book argues that when we're tense and stressed, our minds are less receptive to creative insights.
Oh.
It's like our thoughts become cluttered and we can't see the forest for the trees.
It's like our minds need space to breathe.
They do.
For those creative sparks to fly.
Exactly. And that's where relaxation comes in.
Okay.
The book even says that relaxation is one of Christianity's scientific techniques for treating human nature.
So it's not about, just chilling out watching Netflix.
Right.
It's about creating that mental and emotional space.
It is.
For new ideas.
For new ideas to emerge.
It's about finding that stillness within ourselves.
Right.
That quiet space where we connect with our inner wisdom.
Yeah.
Allow those creative insights to flow through us.
The book talks about adopting an easy does-it attitude.
Yeah.
Slowing down our pace, finding moments of quiet.
Do you think that's realistic in our fast-paced, always-on culture?
It's a challenge, but I think it's more important now than ever.
Okay.
We're bombarded with information and stimulation. It's easy to get swept away.
Yeah.
But if we make a conscious effort to create those pockets of stillness, even just for a few minutes each day, it can make a big difference.
It's like hitting the pause button on the chaos.
Oh, exactly.
And giving ourselves permission to just be.
Yes. And, it makes me think about Branch Rickey.
Yeah.
The baseball executive, who was known for being so calm and collected.
Even in high-pressure situations.
Even in high-pressure situations.
He achieved incredible success without succumbing to that frantic energy that so many of us feel pressured to maintain.
It's like he had this inner peace
that
allowed him to stay grounded and focused.
Even when everything around him was chaotic.
The book seems to suggest that this ability to work relaxed comes from tapping into a power beyond ourselves.
So it's not about striving harder. It's about aligning ourselves with a greater force.
Exactly.
Letting it work through us.
And that brings us to another fascinating aspect.
Okay.
The art of likability.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Something we all think about.
We do, for sure.
Consciously or unconsciously.
Definitely. We want to be liked and accepted. To feel like we belong.
To feel like we belong.
But the book acknowledges it's impossible to please everyone.
It is.
So what's the key to building strong connections?
It starts with recognizing that human need to feel valued and appreciated.
Okay.
Remember those contrasting stories?
Yeah.
About the doctor who longed for connection?
Oh, yeah.
And the woman who felt so unwanted?
They highlight how essential it is.
Yeah.
To feel seen and heard, to know that we matter.
To know that we matter.
And there's that heartwarming story about James Farley.
Yeah.
This remarkable ability to make people feel special.
He did.
Through simple acts of kindness and interest.
Yeah, his interactions with that woman in the grocery store. A perfect example.
Yeah.
It's not about grand gestures or impressing people.
Right.
It's about those small, everyday acts of kindness.
Okay, so how do we become more like James Farley?
Well,
Is there a secret formula?
The book talks about how our own self-perceptions can affect how others see us.
Oh.
It's not just our actions, but also our internal dialogue.
You mean like how we talk to ourselves?
Exactly, the beliefs we hold about ourselves.
Okay.
The book highlights how certain personality traits can create this kind of scratchy element.
Interesting.
Makes us less appealing.
Oh.
Like the man who went to the clinic for help with his relationships.
Yeah.
He was critical, rigid, had an air of superiority.
It sounds like he was projecting his insecurities onto other people.
The book suggests that these negative traits are often rooted in deeper fears, insecurities.
Yeah.
It's not about blaming ourselves.
Right.
It's about recognizing the patterns and doing the work to heal and grow.
Yeah. So it's like we have to do some personal development before we can truly connect.
I think that's a good way to put it.
With others in a healthy way.
And the book provides techniques for doing that.
Okay.
It encourages us to identify those negative thought patterns or behaviors that are hindering us from building those strong relationships.
It's like a mental and emotional makeover for our relationships.
And ultimately, it boils down to love.
Love for others.
Love for others. When we focus on the positive qualities in people, we become more likable ourselves.
Makes sense. It's like our own inner light shines brighter when we choose to see the light in others.
I like that. And the book offers some techniques for practicing this. Like making an effort to learn names, expressing sincere appreciation, looking for opportunities to make people feel valued.
So it's about shifting our focus.
It is.
From ourselves to others.
From ourselves to others.
Making that conscious effort to connect.
To connect.
On a deeper level.
On a deeper level.
Yeah.
But what about when those connections are broken?
Yeah.
When we experience loss?
Yeah.
Heartache?
It's universal, but it can feel so isolating.
It can be incredibly difficult.
It's one of the most challenging aspects of life.
It is one of the most challenging.
The book acknowledges that heartache is inevitable.
It does.
But it also offers insights into coping with grief.
It does.
And finding healing.
Yes.
What kind of insights I think a lot of people struggle with how to process those emotions in a healthy way?
The book emphasizes expressing our grief authentically.
Okay.
Not bottling it up or pretending we're not hurting.
Right.
It also points to the power of faith in helping us heal and find solace.
That reminds me of that quote from Brother Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
If in this life we would know the serene peace of paradise, we must school ourselves in familiar, humble, and loving converse with God.
That's a beautiful quote.
It suggests that even in our darkest moments, we can find comfort and peace in our connection with a higher power.
The book also talks about developing a philosophy of life and death.
Okay.
Understanding the continuity of life after death can bring comfort in times of loss.
I remember those passages about the dying man who saw his deceased relatives and Mrs. Edison's account of her husband's passing.
Right.
They offer a glimpse of hope.
They do.
Beyond the veil of death. A sense that death is not the end, but a transition.
The book reinforces that.
Okay.
By pointing to accounts of people who have felt the presence of loved ones who have passed on.
Like they're still with us.
It suggests that the connection between souls transcends the physical realm.
It's comforting thought. It's like those we've lost are still with us in spirit.
It is a comforting thought.
Even if we can't see them.
And it all circles back to that overarching theme of drawing upon a higher power.
Right. This idea that we're not alone.
We're not alone.
That there's a source of strength and guidance available to us.
It's always available.
We've seen it in the stories.
Yeah.
From the man who found sobriety through AA to Charles the alcoholic who experienced that miraculous healing.
It's a recurring theme of surrender.
Yeah.
And transformation.
Letting go of our need to control.
Right.
And trusting that a higher power is working.
Trust.
Even when we can't see the path.
Having faith that we're guided and supported.
Yeah. Even in those darkest moments.
Even in those darkest moments.
And it's not just about overcoming challenges or achieving success. It's about finding that deeper sense of peace
Yes.
and purpose in our lives, a connection to something greater.
That's what it's all about.
It's recognizing that we're not alone in this,
Right.
that we're all part of something much bigger
Than we can imagine.
than we can imagine. This has been such a rich and insightful exploration.
It has.
I'm already seeing how these principles could apply to my own life.
It's amazing how a small shift in perspective
Yeah.
can open up a whole new world.
A whole new world of possibilities. It's amazing. You know, we've been talking about all these ideas from the power of positive thinking.
Yeah.
And it really hits me how relevant they are to life today.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, we're bombarded with information constantly. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and disconnected.
It is. It's easy to lose sight of what really matters.
And it's like we're searching for peace and purpose, but we're looking in all the wrong places.
Yeah, we are.
The book reminds us that the answers we seek are already within us. It's about cultivating that connection to a higher power.
Right.
Finding that strength and guidance to face life's challenges with more grace and resilience.
So it's not about escaping the world
Right.
or ignoring problems.
It's about finding that deeper well of strength within
Exactly.
to draw from.
And the book gives us tools to do that.
It does.
Cultivating faith, practicing positive thinking, making time for quiet reflection,
Yeah.
seeking guidance from a higher source.
And all those stories we talked about show how powerful those principles can be.
Absolutely, people overcoming incredible challenges.
Finding peace in the midst of chaos.
Yeah.
Discovering a deeper sense of meaning and purpose.
It's inspiring.
So after exploring all these ideas, what resonates most with you?
What really stood out to me is that emphasis on the interconnectedness
Okay.
of our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. We're not just physical beings.
Yeah.
We have this longing for connection and purpose.
Yeah.
When we nurture that spiritual side, we tap into a power that can transform our lives.
It's like all the pieces fit together,
They do.
creating a more holistic sense of well-being.
And it's not about following any specific dogma or rules.
No.
It's about that personal connection to a higher power,
Whatever that means to you.
whatever that means to you.
It's about finding that love, guidance, and strength
Yeah.
that's always available to us
If we open ourselves to it.
if we open ourselves to it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a truly insightful journey
Yeah.
through the power of positive thinking.
It's a reminder that we all have that power within us
We do.
to overcome challenges, find happiness,
Yeah.
and create a life filled with meaning.
And purpose. This deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us.